Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Boy, and we're here to introduce you the one, the only, the amazing Tiberius Boy.
Hello.
So, for those who don't know, Tiberius runs his own radio show that's slowly been turning into a talk show.
That is true. Yes.
Going to need to speak up so they can hear you because I know you're used to being the host and not the guest. So, Tiberius has been doing this for how long?
I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I started this when I was 7, and it's going pretty well.
So tell me, Tiberius, what have you learned in 5 years?
I've learned that there are more than 280 jobs in the world, and that you can make over $100,000 a year just by picking up trash.
Okay, what was cool about the trash guy? He interviewed a guy who does and picks up garbage out of where's he do it? Parking lots.
Yeah, parking lots and sidewalks, kind of like community service that you do at jail for something. Yeah.
And so, what was cool about that?
So what was cool about it is that it's helping others keep their facility clean, and you make money on the side. But if you earn more and do a lot more jobs about it, you can earn a lot.
So, you've been doing this a while. What gave you the idea that you even wanted to do like a show?
Okay, so there's a story to this. So, Dad, you're a part of the story. So, my dad's a computer guy, and he was working with a radio station one time, and they had mics, and I kept on messing with them, and I wouldn't stop messing with them. And my dad was like,
Please don't break the mic. I don't want to pay them to fix their computer.
but other than that, I kept on messing with the mics, and then they asked me, Tiberius, what would you do if you had your own radio show? And I came up with the idea of this, and my dad helped me out, and here we are.
6 hours later, they came up with a broadcast. And who was your first actual adult guest?
My first actual adult guest was my principal. I was scared because it was my principal, number one, but it was a lot of fun, and that's when my dad realized that.
Well, at that point, I realized I would even listen to it. It was actually good content. I mean, he had interviewed some kids beforehand, and it wasn't that great. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But I figured, you know what? I'll just let him try. I mean, he quits everything anyway, so just do it for a little while. He'll quit. He didn't quit.
He said after 10 shows that he would get it on the air. We were at 12 shows before we got on the air.
Well, he came to me and goes, Dad, why am I not on the air yet? I'm like, crap, I actually have to do this. So I had to figure out a way to actually pull it off, called a bunch of radio stations, and guess what they wanted? Money. So we figured out how to do it. We went to my clients and said, hey, we wanted to raise some funds and get some advertising and that. And it took about another 4 months, and then we managed to get them on the air. Do you remember the first station you were on?
The first station I was on was WGHM 102 Jam.
No, it was WWPR Talk Radio in Tampa Bay, 1490.
Oh, okay.
They were the first station. 102 Jams did pick you up. It was about 3 months later.
Right, yeah.
And also Rock 100 DIZ. One of the ones that love him and he does really well with is the one in Texas. What's that one? KNT? KINT 98. They're in Texas. And then after about a year and a half, 2 years, what overseas place did you get to do?
London, England. They picked me up on a radio station, and then they turned into a TV station.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Now, of all the guests that you've had, what was that one that you really, really, really wanted?
Of all the actors I've already interviewed, the one that I really liked or wanted was the number one bowler in the world, Jason Belmonte, which I did get to interview, and it was a lot of fun. He was my icon because I'm a bowler, and it was great talking with him. I even got a few tips as well.
Well, one of the things that was really cool about Jason Belmonte is that we did this thing called Cameo, where you can get access to celebrities and superstars. And we had sent him to do a shout out for Tiberius for his birthday, and said he's a broadcaster and all that. And he's a two-handed bowler, loves you very much. Would love to get a shout out from your birthday. And when he got the message, he turned around and says, "I looked him up, and so he has a radio show. I want to be on it. Please have your dad contact me." So he flew from Australia to Orlando, but got COVID the day he got here. So we had to do it from his hotel.
Yeah, I never knew, but about 2 years after, which was actually a few weeks ago, he told me, and I was very surprised.
That's why he couldn't be physically
why
here,
he
because
couldn't
he
be
was here
here.
in Orlando. But some of the cool things that had happened since then is Cameo contacted you, did they not?
Yes, they did, and in fact, I am now one of their celebrities on Cameo. So I can do birthday greetings, anything really, pep talks even. We've only had 2 right now, but it is a lot of fun to do. So
So if those who haven't heard of Cameo, what they do is that they actually get to talk to the celebrity, and then he gets to give them like motivational pep talks and so forth. It's been pretty interesting. So Tiberius, what type of guest are you looking for?
So me, I am looking for garbage man, pilot, let's see here. At least president of the United States, if we can get it. Don't worry. I'm not I won't be mad if you don't. But if we can get a job that I've never really heard of before. Like, name one.
Well, you've asked for a garbage man and an airline pilot many times, and I
Mhm.
have not been able to pull off either one of those. Of course, you want the president. You've asked for Ellen DeGeneres. You've asked for Steve Harvey. Um, Here's a question: what is it you want to do when you grow up?
Now that is a good question that's been on my mind for many years. I know that I've been doing this for 5 years and I might go on for longer, but that's one. Two, I want to be like a game show host if I could, because I could make up my own rules of a game show host, kind of like Anderson Cooper and the Mole. Because if you don't know, Anderson Cooper was the owner of the Mole, a game show where it's kind of like the new game Among Us that everyone's talking about. And it was really cool because after that, he became, the famous Anderson Cooper 360. And he was the one who got me into watching the Mole, and I wanted to make my own version.
I know the real reason why you want to be a game show host.
Why?
Because you don't want to write scripts.
True.
This kid hates writing the scripts. He doesn't want to write the questions. He just wants them in front of him so he can just talk to people.
Yeah, that is true.
You got to practice your scripts. Now, we had a question, and the question was about teachers.
Now, what do your teachers and fellow students think of his
Okay.
broadcasting career?
Oh,
So what do the kids at school, what do the teachers think about it?
so well, first off, 3 years starting at the business, I finally had the courage to tell my fellow students, my fellow 4th graders, about the radio show. And they were like, "Oh, that's cool. Well, do you have like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook?" I'm like, "I'm on YouTube and Facebook. We barely have any subscribers, but we're almost a 500 at the moment, so I'm proud of that." But they're like, "Oh, that's really cool," and all of them just made a Google account and subscribed, and I was very happy about that. But now this year, I decided they were like they told me about it again. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still actually doing it again," and like, that's really cool. And because there's more newer students who haven't subscribed yet, they told them about it. I told them more about it and the new stuff. And like, that is really cool. And I'm I'm very surprised that my school did this, because you don't know this, Dad, but the principal, um, they made a 8th grade elective called podcasting. And it was about podcasting and how to make your own broadcast. And they had my show played as one of the days, as they would listen to a podcast, and they listened to the whole 30 minutes, which was almost 3/4 of the class. And they watched, I believe it was The Medium. And it was very cool to see the school do that, because the principal, who is still the same principal, I interviewed, that was the first adult guest. So that was pretty cool of them.
Well, a lot of schools are airing his show in the classrooms. And originally, when he did this, they didn't believe him. They thought he was lying.
That was in second grade.
When he first started it, they all thought he was making it up, and there's no way he was doing it. And it wasn't until you got on Fox 35 when the teacher aired it at the school and they put it in the church. At that point, all the kids knew he was for real because he was on Fox 35 talking about his show.
Yeah, I remember that moment. That I was embarrassed, but I felt proud.
So if you could, why do you want to interview people about their jobs?
So I want to help kids understand that there's more jobs for the world rather than a police officer, firefighter, excuse me. And some more of the basic ones, like pilot, as everyone knows. Garbage man, a lot of people don't know, but they think it's all automated soon, but it's not because that's what they want to do when they're older. And I want to help kids understand that there's more jobs than just that. You know, like podcasters, like what I'm doing, and picking up trash, which is pretty cool. Mediums, psychics, all those.
Okay,
And
this was funny. Tiberius thought picking up trash was a horrible job. He did not have any interest in the job. He thought it was the worst thing in the world. Then the guy came on and says, "I make $100,000 a year on an easy day." He's averaging about $800,000 a year walking around parking lots, jabbing trash and putting it in a bag, and that's all he does. And he says he's making a killing at it. And Tiberius is like, maybe I should learn more about that. It's the money that got to him because he doesn't want to do work. What are you allergic to, Tiberius?
manual labor. It's a joke.
He doesn't like manual labor. He wants to do easy stuff. Is this easy?
Sometimes and sometimes not.
What was your hardest interview?
Oh, hardest interview. I gotta say, it was the Kevin Barry. That was one of the hardest ones because at the time it took around 2 to 3 hours in order to find 30 minutes of content. And this show, it took 7 or 6 hours in order to get 30 minutes of good content that we could actually air.
Kevin Barry introduced you to a new concept. What was that concept?
Suicide. I didn't know what suicide was. At 7 years old, I didn't know what suicide was. And I asked him, well, what is suicide? And that was a mistake.
Well, no, you asked him why he wanted to be a police officer.
Yes, that is true.
And his answer
was, well, my friend tried to commit suicide. I'm like, what's suicide? Because I don't know. I'm 7. I don't watch crime shows. And yeah, that was a show.
Now we have had shows that we've had to not air.
Yes, that is true.
The show was so bad we couldn't air it. What was one that you couldn't air?
It was a Hare Krishna monk, peacekeeper, elected by President Obama, made me cry, and we could not air that show.
Why, pray tell, Tiberius, did he make you cry?
He told me that I was gonna go to hell for playing video games. Surprising, huh?
I don't know how it happened. Tiberius started crying. I couldn't find a way to fix it to make a decent show out of it. This monk was just so angry and said Tiberius shouldn't be playing video games and he's going to go to hell if he does. And I'm like, how do you tell a kid that these days? Oh my goodness. It was crazy. So, what is, you didn't always wear this.
No, I didn't.
You were wearing your school uniform.
That is true.
What happened?
So I interviewed this one lady named Raquel Aza. She was the I believe Eyewitness News on Channel 9. So yeah, that one was fun. But she noticed that I was wearing my school uniform all the time, and she's like, "We need to get you a new outfit." And I'm like, "Okay, well, do you have any suggestions?" And she's like, "Okay, who is your favorite reporter or someone who's famous?" And
Well, we went and we got all the photos.
Yes, all the photos of the reporters and famous people. And I chose Larry King, which is the suspenders, bow tie, and the hat. And I've been wearing this ever since that show. We found some
Different
and
colors.
of course different colors, that was the new, but after that I always wore black hat, black suspenders, and black tie. And I kept on wearing that for all the shows. And it was tons of fun. And it changed the whole perspective of the show because people took me a lot more seriously instead of me wearing my school uniform and not taking me seriously a lot.
Well, they were just some kid wearing a school uniform holding a mic and they didn't know why. All of a sudden now they respected him as a broadcaster, as a reporter. Everyone wanted to know who he was. I mean, he could go to a sporting event and everyone wanted to be around him. And he was always crowded. Everyone would crowd him, asking him questions and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone wants to know out there, what is the secret to your success as a broadcaster?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So my dad told me not to tell you this, but it's one thing called energy drinks. These get me very excited and very energized for a show. I know we're not allowed to be sponsored by these companies, but Monster, Bang, please do sponsor us if you can.
You can't get sponsored by Bang. 18 years and older, they're not going
I
to let
know.
you sponsor.
But if you can, please do notify us and let us know. But those are one of the ways that gets me excited and ready for a show.
Now, the content of being someone who asks about people's passions in their job, how did you get that idea?
Okay. I'm repeating the question.
The content of someone's passion and their job. You said you want to teach everyone about their job, but how did you get the idea of that?
I got the idea because my dad, he had a pretty cool job, which was a computer guy. And not a lot of people knew what a computer guy did. But I'm like, well, it's a computer company, he goes to people's houses, he fixes their computers. And like, what? Because nobody knew what it was at my school. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't know this job, I can teach you about it. But if you don't know these other jobs, which would be pretty cool because, they are running out of people doing that job, I'm like, I should start a radio show, because you're thinking about one, that talks and teaches people about new jobs and how they help out the world. And it was pretty cool.
What was funny is it took me 3 years before I realized how he got the idea. And what it was is all of a sudden he's doing this. And I realized that when he was 3, 4 years old, I would walk him to downtown and I would point to buildings so he could learn how to read. And I'd say, what is that sign? And it would say Publix. And what would you say when I pointed to Publix?
Cookie.
That was free cookies.
Because I get free cookies.
So I point to another one and it said accounting. And I said, what's accounting? And you said,
I don't know. I don't know what accounting is.
so I says, go in there and ask him.
So I went ahead and walked inside and I asked, well, what do you do? And they told me about their job. Of course, I've forgotten because it's been a long time.
It's what Bob does.
Right. Yes.
It's what Bob does right there. Bob's sitting there going like, I can't believe you didn't know that.
I forgot.
He handles people's books.
Yes. Books and books of money.
Mm-hmm. Count money. Yes.
Yes.
So with that, evidently something he learned when he was 4 carried on and was still in the back of his mind. I had no clue. Now, you've talked about the secret of your success. You've talked about elements of, here's a question is, do you want to keep doing it?
Yes, of course, I would like to keep doing it. Although it's being hard to sometimes find shows.
New guests and all that.
New
It is
guests
hard to
and all
find
that.
guests all the time.
It was-
What are you getting out of it?
I get knowledge of new jobs and the happiness of showing kids new jobs. Because I go out to the world, which is how we came up with these signatures things, where I was at Universal this one time. And I was, of course, I was doing the show. And some kid was like, hey, are you Tiberius Boy? And I'm like, yes, why? He's like, I watch your radio show. I'm like, can I have a signature? And I pull out, because we didn't know what to do at the time, I pulled out one of my business cards. I signed it and gave it to him. And that made his day. And I'm like, so kids do really enjoy my radio show.
Well, what Tiberius didn't know, and over time, it's grown. He has over
Yes.
15,000 viewers that are on the podcast, 85,000 viewers on the radio, about 25,000 users on TV, and I forget how many are doing just the delayed afterwards. Oh, like 400 or 500 on YouTube. For some reason, YouTube, the one that actually offers money, is the one that is slow and can't get high numbers.
Yeah.
Now, you're looking for guests, right?
Yes.
So what do you want to tell a potential guest that's in that Rotary Club? What do you want to tell them?
please contact my dad. You can call him at 321-662-6788. That number again is 321-662-6788. And you can email him at joeboy@yctv.com or joeboy@thetiberiusshow.com. Both of those work.
And you want to interview him because?
I want to figure out your job and tell kids about it.
Now, if the other thing you could use is sponsors.
Yes, sponsors.
So if you know someone who
We
wants to
lost
sponsor
half
the
of them due
show,
to COVID. That was hard.
he learned a hard lesson when COVID hit. What'd you
Dead
learn?
people don't pay.
People who did don't pay. And he has a small he only what $300 a month, so it's not he's
Yeah.
not charging a lot, but this is how he's been able to grow, and a portion of that goes into your college fund.
Yep.
And where's the other half go?
Other half goes to my bank account.
Which gets used for your car when you get a car and incidentals. So he's slowly growing in income. How much do you have at the bank right now?
Over 2,000.
A 12-year-old with over $2,000. Now, many people ask, what do I get out of it? Why am I slowing down my company to do this and spend my time? And I'll tell you this one, I get to spend time with my kid. You know how many people say you never get to spend time with your kid, or that they grow up so fast? They do grow up so fast. I get to spend time with my son, and I love it every minute. He gets to learn about scripts. He gets to learn about a vocation. He gets to learn about all these different jobs. But I also get to be with them. And most fathers don't get to spend time with their kids unless they're wealthy.
That is
So
true.
I get to work on my bond with him, and he gets to develop some skills that I don't know anyone can normally get them anywhere else. These are detailed skills that are difficult to get. And Bob's had a friend, his name was Larry, who works in the entertainment business, said he can't believe that Tiberius can just read off a script and do it looking in the camera straight up and never fade. Now, one of the things about your show is at the end you talk about Lion Strong.
Yes.
So it's a core part about who you are. Can you explain to them what is Lion Strong?
Okay, so Lion Strong is something that I got from my school. My school mantra is Lion Strong, and it stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and ability. And I will now tell you what it is about. So, leadership. For me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good, having self-control, and being disciplined. And the qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. A lot of people use integrity in school or leadership in school through, leading the line leader in 4th grade, and helping other kids learn more about the subject, like me, who my math class, so a lot of them have a hard time learning the subject about it, and I go ahead and help them out a little bit. I don't give them the answers, I give them hints and other things, and they help learn it that way.
So that's leadership. Now the I stands for
Integrity.
and what is that?
Okay, so for me, I think integrity is doing what is right even when no one else is looking. The qualities of integrity is honesty, sincerity, truthfulness, and fairness. An example of this is when the teacher needs to go to the bathroom or something, and you're all alone, and all the other students are just alone in the classroom with no teacher. It can get hectic sometimes. Trust me, I've had my fair share of students getting rowdy.
Okay, now you got the O. What does the O stand for?
The O stands for obedience. For me, I think obedience is being fully committed to doing what is pleasing to God. And the qualities of obedience are compliance with a good attitude and respect for the laws. And you know when someone is obedient when they follow instructions willingly and thoroughly, and also with a smile on their face.
Okay. Now, what's the last one? Because lion, Lion, what does N stand
N stands for nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering that we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. And the qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness.
Now you've seen a lot of selflessness when it comes to because he talks about these during the show, and I think the homeless guy was interesting. Someone had dropped a wallet, and a homeless guy went and picked it up and gave it back to the guy. And the guy was so mad at him because he was being bothered by a homeless guy, and the homeless guy was trying to return his wallet,
Yeah.
and the guy didn't even give the homeless guy any money, didn't give him anything, and there was money in the wallet. The homeless guy could have kept that money, but he was showing nobility because he was being completely selfless, even though he could use the money himself, gave it to the guy, dealt with the being berated for it, and still returned the wallet and gave it to him. And that was a pretty cool thing. And the fact that he catches that stuff, he's learning it and then sharing it with everyone else, that's what I think is important.
And although it's not obedience, it is leadership, integrity, and nobility.
Yeah.
That is true.
So, I know that we're probably getting close to your time because you're allowed 30 minutes, and I believe we've been talking for 30 minutes, unless Rich is going to tell you to keep talking or if there's any questions. So why don't we do this? Why don't we turn it to the audience to find out if there's any questions? Unless they want a tour of the backstage. You guys want to see the backstage of what it looks like?
that sounds great. Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me walk over there. There's Bob. I'm going to go turn on a bright light. So Bob will be lit up. I'm going to walk behind Bob. And no, I'm never on camera.
He is never on camera. That is true.
I'm grabbing this here. So here is the rig that runs it. And we walk around and there's Tiberius with this big teleprompter. And along that are all the side rooms. And there is, he's running away. There is the green room setup. And of course, food and a whole big mess. His changing outfits and all that. Then back behind here is what everything keeps running. There's the board. And then here's where we actually do all the broadcast and the live stuff. So you see Rich there. He's what we're getting to look at. And then we keep all our timers up here. And then this is where we can see what's going on. If we try to walk around the front, Tiberius can actually see.
That camera just cut off.
The camera went out?
Yep, camera went out.
Camera went out. Oops.
Is it okay? It is okay.
So that's pretty much where it goes. Did I fade out or were you guys still be able to hear me?
No, we hear you fine. You heard you fine the whole time.
So that's pretty much how the whole thing runs. We actually use this device. If you go so the cameras keep changing, we're using a device called a Stream Deck, and that allows us to switch and change them. And that allows us to change our scenes. So if you want to look at my ugly mug, you just press that button. And then if I want to look at Tiberius's ugly mug, we hit that button. And so being able to switch back and forth live really makes a big difference. And that was with the help, that whole system was with the help of Bob, because Bob has his own show. And so because of Bob helping out and so forth, it elevated both of our shows. Bob's show, of course, got better. And then Tiberius got to do a lot more things.
That is true, yes.
So who has questions for Tiberius?
I will go ahead and go around the side.
Huh? No. Where'd you want to move?
Go around the side. Go ahead and see the
You want to go there?
Go ahead and see the question.
You want to see the questions. Okay. Well, that camera broke, remember?
Yeah, I know.
So does anyone have questions for Tiberius in there?
Does Bob have access to the chat box? Because if not, I can go
Bob
through.
is out of the room, so
Bob accidentally left the room
Okay. All right.
so I am now sitting in the seat.
because everyone's getting phone calls. Let me see if I can fix his camera there.
Yeah, I had a question if he'd ever heard of Mike Rowe or thought about interviewing him, the Dirty Jobs guy.
I have contacted him a number of times, and he has not been available. That and Bill Nye, the science guy. Try to get him too.
Oh yes,
So now there's Tiberius in his chair. He wants to sit back and relax. So he's in a more relaxing environment. So yes, the Mike Rowe, we have tried a number of times to get hold of him. Bill Nye actually said no, they weren't interested. I think they thought we were a sales pitch, and we weren't. He just wants to interview people. But yeah, that's kind of where he's been going.
Maybe you need to send these guys a sample show so they understand, how cool the whole situation is.
Tiberius is an absolutely amazing speaker. How long did it take him to learn to do this without the ahs and the ers and the ums and all stuff that normally bedevil speakers? He doesn't do any of that stuff. It's incredible.
In high school, we used to have this one class called Compass. I was in elementary school, and the teacher never allowed us to use the word and any of that. And a lot of us learned to not say it. I was one of them. A lot of other people did not, and they still use it. But yeah.
Well, that was fabulous.
And do not worry.
It was a
I
good skill
am
to
putting
learn.
the contact info in the chat right now.
I will say Tiberius has learned a lot from doing this that he doesn't even realize he was learning. As it says, Larry, a friend of Bob, said, Tiberius just is a natural when it comes to reading off of the screen because we have a teleprompter here. And he goes, it's crazy how symmetrical and easy he just reads right off the screen, and he does it better than I do. And I'm old, but evidently he's got, he's been practicing it way longer than I have. That's for sure.
He's amazing.
Okay, so I'm looking through the questions now. Okay. Well, I did not know that Rich actually used to be partners with Larry King. That is really cool. So,
Have you ever met Larry King?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'll tell you a little background on Larry King. Larry King left CNN to go work to start a company that was called Brooklyn Water Bagel, because Larry King is from Brooklyn, New York. And Brooklyn, New York allegedly has the best bagels in the world because the water in Brooklyn is superior to any other water in at least the metro New York area. So Larry King worked with these people, and they were able to simulate what the makeup was of Brooklyn water. And so they put together a restaurant company in South Florida called Brooklyn Water Bagel. And Larry actually left CNN to go work in helping Brooklyn Water Bagel be successful. And he was a client of mine. And there are 3 Brooklyn Water Bagels in Orlando. One of them is in Lake Mary Boulevard, 3800 Lake Mary Boulevard. And when you go in there, you'll see the water treatment plant. And they're like a Krispy Kreme, where they do exhibition style delivery, where you actually watch them make the bagels and everything behind glass. Because that's the thing about Krispy Kreme, is you get to watch them actually create everything. And so that's called exhibition style delivery. And so I became friends with him just because he was a client of mine, and he used to call me all hours of the night because he's in California, and telling me that I was the only person in the company he was able to talk to. But anyway, Larry was a terrific person, really down to earth. And his key to interviewing people is that he genuinely is interested in everybody he talks to. And so the thing Larry used to always say was, I listen, and my questions, while I have questions, he said, once they start talking, I pretty much ignore my questions and I just listen to what they say and just carry it on. But I'm genuinely interested in what everybody has to say. So I really enjoyed knowing him. He was a pretty terrific guy.
Well, I can tell you that one of Tiberius's people that he wanted to interview was Dan Rather, because Dan Rather is someone that he got a lot of his questions from. He would watch Dan Rather videos, and from those videos, he would then learn how to ask questions that were more interesting, how to ask and put the control back into the guest hands. Like, what was that one question that, you think I forgot to ask you? And those were some of the things that he's asked that I thought were quite important.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys, actually. So, what do y'all do?
Denny, you should start, Denny.
Okay, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, we've wondered. Joe and I actually wanted him to ask you that. What the hell do you do, Danny?
Well, I'm a, I don't know how to say it. I guess I'm a perennial entrepreneur, always trying to build companies. Matter of fact, we're right now ready to roll out a company where we're using NASA technology to build magnetic loops. All we're waiting for is to talk to the crowdfunder that Chuck Fearhofer has found for us, and we think we're going to do very, very well with it. Matter of fact, I was at my cardiologist today. He's got 2 new inventions for us that he's got patented. He doesn't know what to do with it. He wants to see if we can do something with it. So I keep my eyes and ears open, and when I see something that seems like something worthwhile doing, I follow it till either it dies, there's no future to it, or if we can do something with it. What my strength is team builders. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. If you understand what your weaknesses are and you find somebody to fill in that slot, that's what you really need. And when you're doing a company, there's a million different things you have to look at. We've got 20 some people on this project right now. And we're in the process of putting together a board of advisors, which I'm hoping Rich is going to be a part of, which I haven't sent him the information yet on what it's going to be, to kind of overlook what we're doing. So we want to make sure that we stay successful when we start getting off the highway. We want to say, hey, wait a minute, guys, get back on. So you've got an incredible start here in life. You really do. I don't know if you even, I know your father understands that, and we certainly understand that. All I can say is just be true to yourself and don't blow it. And keep in mind that what you're doing now is probably far different from what you're going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50. I'm almost 80 and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So that's just the way life works. It's fascinating. And as long as you learn something every day, you're living a good life. And help people too. That's the other key. And that's what we do as Rotary. I'm sure you're going to become a Rotarian. Your dad would be disappointed if you didn't. One of the things
He's getting to that direction. He's been to a couple meetings.
no,
Gets pulled out of school every time he does,
they like that. Yeah.
and he enjoys it. And one of the ones he is trying to do is the mayor. So anyone who knows the mayor, let's even get the mayor on a show, because he's asked many times. He really wants to interview the mayor.
Tiberius, I don't want to promise you anything. One of my sons is a commercial airline pilot. How much time would he need to give to you if you wanted to interview him?
About an hour to 45 minutes. That's all.
All right. Does it matter when?
At least on a Wednesday. We can do Saturdays if you want.
All right. Well, he generally knows his schedule a week or a month in advance. So I'll see if we can set something up. I think he'd enjoy it. I know that you would.
Would it be done by Zoom? Probably.
Yeah, we can do Zoom. Let me put that there.
Where is he, Danny?
He's in. He lives in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, it can be done by Zoom. It's a Zoom-like product called Wirecast, and it normally takes about 45 minutes to an hour to do. And he normally records Wednesdays at 3:30 or after school on Wednesdays, and then sometimes he can do a weekend. During the summer, I produced 4 shows a week with him, and that allowed us to catch up. So if someone's sick, no one knows he missed a show, because we've had this backup of 16 to 20 shows, and that's why it can take up to 3-4 months before the show airs after it's been recorded.
No matter where he is to do this, right? Because he could be anywhere in the United States for that matter.
Yeah, we interviewed someone from Pakistan, Hong Kong.
Oh my gosh, the Pakistan guy. Okay, here's the funny thing. The guy lost internet like 12 times during the show, and Tiberius couldn't understand why. His job was to teach women how to drive. Now, Tiberius didn't understand that was illegal in Pakistan. And so the cops kept chasing him.
Really?
They kept looking for him. And so he would get online and they would go get him. Tiberius says, he lost internet again, Dad. I don't know why.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So any other questions for Tiberius?
Well, I just want you to know that as I've been on your podcast for a couple of years, and I have watched you grow, and it has really been terrific to watch. I have 9 grandchildren. My youngest grandchild is 10. My oldest is 28, and I marvel at how proud your dad must be of your development as well as you've grown. It's interesting. I love your podcast, and I'm 76 years old. I love listening to your podcast. I especially like this year better because I can understand you better this year than I could in earlier years. But your questions are terrific, and it is. I'm going to recommend to everybody that they subscribe to your podcast. It automatically comes to your phone every time you release it, and it's really worth listening to. So, congratulations on that. Thanks for taking the time today to give us a behind the scenes. We have a couple of other people on the call that I think Kimmy is muted right now, but I would really like Kimmy to be able to tell you a little bit about him and who he is, because I think that you're going to find this really interesting. Kimmy,
Yes.
can you?
Yeah, nothing much to tell. Yeah, I'm a neuroscientist. I've been doing the neuroscience study for 35 years, more than that. And then I'm a professor of medicine at the UCF. Yeah, so I've been here like 20 years. This place, I love it. I mean, not just the weather, but this university growing a lot. So this university, collaborate with the NASA, and we are helping them to develop the, space program and so on, so on. So I love it.
Timmy, you're way too humble. How many patents do you have?
Oh, now the little bit increase, so 69.
69 patents.
That's a lot of patents. Okay, that is a whole lot of patents. And here's the thing: Tiberius did do this show with a lady who was like a psychologist, and she put all these wires in his head and had to drive a car.
Yeah, EG. Yeah.
He had to drive a car just thinking about it. And he started driving. He's like, holy cow, it's working. With that, she got so many people applying to do and play video games with their head. They got very excited about joining her program.
Right. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So then my wife is a musician. She's teaching in UCF, violin. She is the Juilliard graduate, and then we're teaching together. She's teaching the music. I'm teaching the brain. So then how music affect to the brain, that kind of things we are teaching. And then maybe you heard about the Mozart effect. So if you listen to the Mozart music, you become smart or something like that. Yeah, that's real. Surprisingly, when we check the brain function, if we gave the Mozart music, we saw the 50% increase in the frontal lobe function, something like that. Another, now this is funny things. In Florida, you don't want to play a B flat in a swamp. Do you know why? You get the alligator attack. They're gonna attack you. Yeah. Because the B flat is the sound when the male alligator mate. And then they get so much excited. That's why they're gonna attack you. So never ever play B flat. And then talking about the B flat, the black hole, it's making the B flat. And then the Beethoven, the last several, the music, everything in the B flat. So B flat is the something, special sound. That's, we're teaching many of those things. I can talk about these things for another several hours because I'm teaching this one, the whole semester, and then still we're running time short.
Well, Tommy Kirk can definitely do, because he can call alligators. It's amazing.
Rich, I got a question for you, Rich. Since you've been watching the show a lot, what kind of job are you interested in seeing Tiberius interview and seeing how they react to him?
Well, he's pretty broad in terms of the people that he's interviewing. He seems comfortable with everyone. That Tiberius should talk to people like people that are in the media, anything that's going to give him the exposure, where that's going to create scale to what he does. That's really where he should do. And when I do my interview with Tiberius, we'll talk more about how I think you should broaden and multiply what you're doing and how you might really create some scale to what you do. But you're a very talented young man, and you're very impressive. And I've really enjoyed watching you over the last couple of years of how you've grown. And I know your dad has got to be very proud of you. I got to tell you, I look at you compared to my 10, 11, 12-year-old grandchildren, and wow, you're an awesome young man.
Yes, I'm proud, but no one wants me to talk about it. They're like, I'm so tired of hearing about that guy's kid. And it's like, he's a kid. And I know I didn't want to be that parent that said their kid was awesome. And so I'm like, I'm not going to say my kid is awesome. I'm not going to be that parent. Then he turned out to be awesome.
Yeah.
And so like, what am I supposed to do?
I do think that what someone said earlier about, I think Chris mentioned having a demo tape or having something that shows the highlights that shows Tiberius's personality and all that. If you sent that out and you sent that to CNN and you sent that to ABC and you sent that to all of the other people around the United States, I got to tell you, I think there'd be a number of people that would probably call you because it would be a great story for them to do. I think he is a well-kept secret right now, and he's deserving of some notoriety that I think will make him incredibly successful. I want to learn more about Bob's podcast too. I didn't know Bob had a podcast. So
Yeah, I'm sure we'll send you the sizzle reel.
Oh, we can.
Yeah.
Tiberius, why don't you tell them what we're doing? You don't have to have it memorized. You don't need a script. What the hell am I trying to do?
So Bob runs a political show where it's two people on the left and right side of what is it? A Republican and Democrat?
No, we just try to have two on each side, leading.
two
So
on
we got
each
four
side.
people. Right now, I'm the moderator, even though I want somebody else to be the moderator. But
I've offered to do it, but I have to run the cameras.
No, we got to get somebody running cameras so Joe Boy can be on the show because we need his craziness. But the stick, and basically the hook to the whole thing is you're not allowed to bring up the name of any person, any politician, and we don't want to hear about what they did or said. So imagine a political discussion where you can't bring it. So it's not a Trump versus Biden. It's not an Obama versus Trump. It's not a Hillary versus whatever. And we don't care to talk about that. We talk about the issues. And what we have found is that if you stick to the issues, there's a lot of agreement across this country.
Yeah.
It's not that divided. It seems to be the press that wants to make us divided.
Sure.
Sells more. And so we want to get this out we're going to get this out on YouTube starting about a year before the next election. And
Bob, why don't you sit next to me?
Yeah.
Why don't you come on, sit next to me? Since this is actually kind of funny. Bob helped Tiberius a lot because when Bob realized what we were doing and says, yeah, I want to do something like this too. It allowed us to upgrade some of the equipment. And that made a big difference. And upgrading the equipment meant Tiberius got access, and it forced me to learn how to use this equipment. We were just using a bunch of webcams. And so now we have all this fancy boards and this kind of stuff and the ability to change cameras. We were just using a single camera back when we started it. So, now Bob's been doing this for how long now?
Oh, it's been a couple of years. The pandemic, it was probably just before the pandemic. In fact, I had a bunch of money backing this thing, and then the pandemic hit and it all fell away. And so we kept doing it. And so I've been pretty much auditioning panelists, and we've got a fairly good group of panelists. We need more young people, though. The last thing we need is a bunch of us, right? I mean, I've got to get more young people. We've got some good ones on. And of course, a lot of people are just afraid to have their opinion on tape, aren't they? These days, we've definitely had a lot of people, and women more so.
Now, Tiberius talks about your show at school. Tiberius, why don't you tell them what class did you talk about Uber Discourse?
It was civics class where we are starting to talk more about politics in 13 colonies right now.
Good.
But soon we're going to go into politics around third or fourth quarter, which is the second semester, which we're going to talk about which is cool that it's 2024, which is next year. That's where it's going to end because that's going to be the political year.
Wow.
For the voting. So.
Now, Tiberius also controls the cameras on that show. So on Bob's shows, I'm not the cameras, he controls the timers. So we have clocks that talk about how long each person's talking. So Tiberius is actually working behind the scenes, running those clocks, letting Bob know when to switch, when to go to commercial, and so forth. So he's learning both sides of the broadcasting world, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. So Tiberius, why don't you tell us, which do you like more, behind the scenes or in front of the camera?
Personally, I honestly really do like the behind the scenes. I really do. I really like behind the scenes. Because behind the scenes, I can control stuff, you know. I don't have to be on camera and not control anything. Although it is fun being in front of the camera and talking with people.
He doesn't like getting caught picking his nose or yawning.
That is one of the things that are true, yes. But other than that, I will show you the timers right now.
I don't think you can, Tiberius, can you?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if he can find a way to show you
Here's
guys.
the timers.
Hold on.
Oh, there they are.
Right here. I pulled them up so I can click on them and I can pause them. So we have liberal and conservative. We have people everywhere, show total. And yeah, I can just go ahead and click on whoever's talking.
Well, why don't you put that camera back on you and tell them what you've learned while doing Uber Discourse as far as for the subjects.
The subjects. The subjects, homelessness is a big problem. Guns are too, but homelessness is a bigger problem. Because a lot of more people are becoming homeless because of inflation and taxes. That's one thing that a lot of the conservatives and liberals can agree on, actually, surprisingly.
What, we need more homeless?
No.
So part of it is Bob talks about subjects of First, Second Amendments, talks about immigration, all these subjects, to find out where the common ground is. And Tiberius gets to learn about these subjects. Then he goes to school and talks to the teachers and civics. And they're like, what am I going to do with this kid? Because he seems to know way more than most people do about these type of subjects, which I find quite entertaining. You know, so
And the name of the show is Uber Discourse.
Yeah, Uber Discourse was their original tag that I kind of based when I came up with the concept of because I used to teach at I used to guest lecture at Full Sail. And even back then, and this is over 10 years ago, the division amongst young people and politically, I could see it back then. And I came up with this idea. I said, look, if you just keep the names out of it, you could keep the politicians out of it. And so that's where I came up with Uber Discourse. But the show is going to broadcast as the third side is what we're going to use. But I kind of, it's funny, Joe and I both love Uber Discourse.
I think Uber Discourse is great, but he's afraid of competing with some company that drives people around.
Yeah,
or something.
and some
I don't
people
know.
don't understand what Uber Discourse is. We refer to it as Uber Discourse, just that concept. And it works because I've got lots of clients in so many families where they don't even talk to each other anymore because of politics. And I'm trying to show them, I mean, I just know because I reach out to both sides and I just know that we're closer than they think. You know, if you could just keep it away from a couple of different subjects, right?
Now, on top of all this, the studio and all that's helping the third side or Uber Discourse, helping Tiberius with his show. It's also helped Rotary because I was teaching Tiberius to give back. And one of the things I've always said is give of yourself, your time and talents, never give your money. And when Rotary wanted to do some stuff for the school reading and with Second Harvest Food Bank, Tiberius, he went ahead and did a video and so forth. And we've also used the studio for the reading program for Rotary. Tiberius, do you remember when you were doing the video and asking people to help Second Harvest Food Bank?
Somewhat. Yes, somewhat.
And along with that, he's been learning that you give of yourself and your time instead of just giving away money. Anyone can give away money, but giving your time and talents. And so that's why we've always made the studio available to anyone from Rotary when they need it.
In which I believe we did donate or save up $13,000, I believe, correct?
Yeah, 13,000. So, but I'm sure at this point we're probably way past the time we were scheduled to go, right?
Yes, it is 1 o'clock now.
We're good.
Is it 1 o'clock?
Yes.
So, Rich, any other questions from people?
What a great time, Bob. Joe, thank you so much, and Bob, thank you for all the setup. And Tiberius, as always, what a great time. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.